In the darkest corners of European history, where madness and monarchy collide, lies a tale so horrifying that chroniclers shied away from capturing its entirety. A queen who once graced the opulent courts of Christendom found her final days imprisoned in silence, her body deteriorating from within as an empire thrived upon her suffering. This is the saga of Joanna of Castile, often referred to as La Loca, whose final anguish defies any simple notion of insanity. Her cries echoed through stone corridors as her flesh succumbed to decay, driven by a grotesque secret that even the most hardened servants couldn't bear to witness. The story that follows challenges our understanding of royal life, the lack of medical knowledge, and the harsh toll of power in the 16th century. In 1555, within the fortress palace of Tordesillas, beside the Duero River in Castile, a woman lays dying in circumstances that would haunt the Spanish court for generations. At 75, years of disease and confinement have transformed her into a figure barely recognizable as human. The air in her chamber is thick with the stench of decay, so overpowering that even fresh flowers wilt by midday. Servants draw lots to determine who must attend her, weeping at their misfortune. Below, life carries on. Merchants peddle their goods, children play in dusty streets, and farmers bring their harvests to market, blissfully unaware of the queen's horrific plight above. To understand how Joanna descended into this nightmare, we must go back over 50 years to when she embodied the hope of Spanish unity. Born in Toledo in 1479 as the third child of Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon, two monarchs whose marriage unified Spain and whose conquest of Granada concluded the Reconquista, Joanna grew up in a court that prized education and piety. She was well-versed in Latin, philosophy, music, and dance, described as intellectually gifted, with a beauty that combined her mother's fierce intelligence and her father's political savvy. From birth, she was groomed as a diplomatic asset, a living treaty in the grand game of European alliances. Joanna's world experienced monumental shifts. Her parents' marriage preceded her birth by a year, joining two kingdoms long at odds. By the time she reached adolescence, Columbus had sailed under her mother's banner, uncovering a new world ripe for Spanish conquest. The Inquisition, launched in 1478, became a tool for religious and political control, sending thousands to their deaths in the name of conformity. Joanna internalized the lessons of queenship, duty over desire, marriage as a political tool, and the role of royal women as producers of heirs and cementers of alliances. She accepted these harsh realities with the resignation expected from a princess poised never to rule. In 1496, at the age of 16, a diplomatic masterstroke sealed Joanna's fate. Her parents arranged a double marriage alliance with the powerful Habsburg dynasty. Joanna would marry Philip, Duke of Burgundy and son of Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I, while her brother Juan would wed Philip's sister Margaret. This alliance aimed to encircle France, Spain's principal rival, with Habsburg territories. In August, Joanna set sail from Laredo, accompanied by a vast fleet carrying her dowry and a retinue of over 100 nobles, servants, and priests. The journey was perilous. Storms ravaged the fleet, and several ships were lost. Upon reaching the Netherlands after months at sea, she was exhausted, seasick, and terrified. Yet the greatest dangers lay ahead. Philip was 28, strikingly handsome, with delicate features and an aristocratic air, his charm undeniable. Upon seeing him, Joanna fell desperately in love, not with the mild affection expected in royal unions, but with an obsessive passion that would ultimately destroy her. For a brief period, happiness graced her life. She adapted to Burgundian court customs, learned new languages, and bore Philip a daughter, Eleanor. In 1498, however, the gleam of marital bliss quickly tarnished. The Burgundian court was notorious for its licentiousness, starkly contrasting Joanna's austere upbringing. Philip treated his role as a prince as a license to pursue numerous mistresses, a behavior Joanna, raised in a strict moral atmosphere, found intolerable. Her love spiraled into jealous obsession, leading her to confront one of his mistresses with scissors, cutting off the woman's hair in a fit of rage. Whispers began to circulate about Joanna's instability, with Philip exploiting these incidents to portray her as mentally unfit, while simultaneously leveraging her royal lineage for political gains. Tragedy struck in 1497 with the sudden death of her beloved brother Juan at 19, possibly due to tuberculosis or the excesses of his marriage. His death placed his pregnant widow next in line, but when she miscarried, succession shifted to Joanna's older sister, Isabella, Queen of Portugal. Within a year, Isabella too succumbed in childbirth and her son, Miguel, lived only 2 years, dying in 1500. These cascading losses transformed Joanna from a minor princess into the presumptive heir to the Spanish throne, now the critical link between the Spanish kingdoms and the vast Habsburg Empire. Recognizing this, Philip became increasingly calculating and cruel, exploiting her status for his ambitions. In 1501, while pregnant with her third child, Joanna returned to Spain for formal recognition as heir by the Cortes of Castile and Aragon. Her mother, now visibly aged and worn, watched with concern as Joanna's desperate love for Philip became a vulnerability that could be exploited. Over months together, Isabella attempted to impart wisdom on governance and the necessity of maintaining dignity despite personal suffering. However, her stern guidance offered little solace for a woman tormented by infidelity. When Philip arrived in Spain in 1502, the couple's contrast starkly showed. He charmed the Spanish nobility while dismissing them privately, and Joanna appeared distant and withdrawn, especially after the birth of their son, Ferdinand. Philip insisted they return to Burgundy, cutting short Joanna's time with her mother. As they departed, Isabella confided to her confessor, fearing she would never see her daughter again. Back in the Netherlands, Joanna's situation worsened. Philip openly treated her with contempt, isolating her from Spanish attendants, surrounding her with his allies, and confining her for weeks when she protested his affairs. Her mental health deteriorated. She refused to change clothes, stopped attending Mass, and spent hours in silence. Modern analyses suggest these behaviors indicated severe depression, possibly compounded by postpartum complications. Yet, in the 16th century, such actions were interpreted as madness, especially in women. Philip's supporters spread rumors of her inherited melancholic madness, further jeopardizing her future. With the death of Queen Isabella in November 1504, Joanna became Queen of Castile in her own right. Isabella's will attempted to protect her daughter, designating Ferdinand as regent if Joanna lacked the capability to rule, recognizing her troubled state without declaring her incompetent. However, Isabella's passing left Joanna vulnerable. Philip immediately proclaimed himself King of Castile by virtue of his marriage, disregarding the will's terms. He and Joanna returned to Spain in 1506, prepared for forceful claim to the throne if necessary. Ferdinand, outmaneuvered and facing civil war, reluctantly recognized Philip and Joanna as co-monarchs, retreating to Aragon. Joanna, who should have celebrated her ascendance, instead became a puppet in Philip's political theater. He showcased her to legitimize his rule while keeping her secluded when not needed for ceremonies. The summer of 1506 brought a devastating blow when Philip, only 28, fell ill after playing pelota in the September heat. His condition worsened, diagnosed with typhoid fever, though whispers of poisoning circulated. As Philip lay dying in Burgos, Joanna remained by his side, refusing food and sleep, holding his hand until he took his last breath on September 25, 1506. Stricken with grief, she sat beside his corpse for hours, struggling to accept his death. In the aftermath, what transpired became legend. Joanna adamantly refused to bury Philip. She ordered his coffin opened repeatedly to gaze upon his decaying features, even embracing the corpse. She commanded a funeral procession from Burgos to Granada, traditionally the burial place for Spanish monarchs, turning the journey into a nightmare that stretched endlessly. They traveled only at night as she declared she could not bear the sun upon her husband's coffin. When they halted at a convent, Joanna flew into a rage upon realizing nuns were present, screaming that no women should approach her husband's body. Monks present described her as seemingly possessed, her hair wild, clothing soiled, eyes burning with unnatural intensity. The coffin was opened repeatedly under her command, the stench of decay filling the air. Amid this turmoil, Joanna was pregnant with Philip's final child. On March 1507 in Tordesillas, she delivered a daughter, Catherine, in a convent beside Philip's coffin. Reports of the birth detail appalling conditions, with the odor of decay surrounding her and her hygiene so poor that midwives struggled to assist. Afterward, Ferdinand, alarmed by his daughter's condition, intervened, asserting control over Castile in Joanna's name and declaring himself regent. Joanna and Philip's body were relocated to Tordesillas, where Ferdinand assured her she would be cared for and protected. In reality, she had been imprisoned. At 27, she was a reigning queen in name, but a captive in truth. She would remain in Tordesillas for the next 46 years until her death. In the early years of confinement, Joanna's mental state continued to deteriorate. Ferdinand occasionally visited, maintaining that his daughter could not govern. Documents from this period reveal her erratic behavior, long silences followed by violent outbursts, periods of starvation and obsessive insistence that Philip was still alive. She spoke to his portrait for hours. Her attendants, loyal to Ferdinand, meticulously documented her actions and words, creating a narrative that justified her ongoing imprisonment. Modern historians debate whether Joanna suffered from genuine mental illness or if her symptoms were exacerbated or manipulated for gain by those around her. The truth likely sits between the two extremes. Joanna did endure real psychological trauma, which was further exploited by her confinement. Ferdinand's death in 1516 marked the end of an era, leaving behind Joanna's son, Charles. Raised in the Netherlands and hardly knowing his mother, he ascended as King of Spain and Holy Roman Emperor. Ruling the largest empire since Rome, he traveled to Tordesillas to meet Joanna, seeking her formal acknowledgement of his kingship.